Midnight is just around the corner and we have a whole bunch of leaks going around. Some are actually legit, like mounts, player housing access that you will get with Midnight in the various editions of the game, and interesting enough there is a hint that Alleria is becoming a Ranger General, which alters the entire faction dynamics as we know it. However, at the same time we have some insanely controversial and interesting ones. We have a shot of the jailer returning with Xal'atath, coming to fill the hole in his chest with potentially the Dark Heart, and we have what appears to be the map of Northrend for the last Titan. The handwriting on the whiteboard is exactly the one Chris Metzen uses, and half of the zones are missing, which could indicate that Northrend is going to be completely different, potentially altered by the arrival of the Titans. Some of these are obviously fake and, let's be real, definitely Ragebait, but let's look at everything we currently have and know. So this might not be perfect for illidan maxing and seeing demons through walls, but it can really help you sleep as a superpower in itself. To be honest, I really thought on first glance it was a gimmick when Manta Sleep sent me this, as maybe what can a mask like this do, but I was blown away as soon as it arrived. The sound mask not only completely blacks out everything so you can't see any light, but there are also integrated headphones inside, Bluetooth ones. All you do is literally just put it on like this and you will feel like you're not even in present reality. It's crazy comfortable and I don't think there is a better way to nap, and this is just one of the various masks that they have, from weighted ones to steam ones to cold ones. So make sure to use my code DORON to get 10% off your first order, and click the link in the description and check out Manta Sleep. So, realistically, leaks are actually becoming a pretty legit problem at this point in time. I mean, back in the day, we actually had some leaked artwork or some behind-the-scenes shots that revealed expansions, for example, the Bolvar artwork that revealed Shadowlands, and it used to happen, but you gotta keep in mind, this was back before 2020. Right now, we got a big problem, which is why I feel like we can never really get fully legitimate leaks anymore, where there are no doubts, and the big problem of that is obviously AI. I mean, previously, someone would have to go to a crazy amount of work to create a convincing fake leak. Someone actually did that for this expansion, but right now, they can just take a few models or shots and a prompt, and you can just kind of run it through AI, then take a screenshot of your monitor to make it appear like it is behind the scenes at Blizzard. Furthermore, we also know the next two expansions, so leaks are not really that mind-boggling. We kind of have the general idea of what is going to come, at least in the World Soul Saga. However, we do have some information we have acquired. A few of them are like 99% BS, almost certainly fake, but interestingly enough to consider, and we have what appears to be a legit leak. This actually happened for multiple expansions by now. About a week or two before the announcement, we got the features of the various editions of the expansion, usually the expansion name, that is how we learned about Dragonflight, and all the things that you can buy with the various editions. So the most legit leak and almost certainly real for Midnight is what you get from the various versions that you buy, and nothing is too crazy. I mean, so far it shows the trader standard bonuses, early access for housing, which we honestly expected because they already showed this to us on the roadmap that player housing is going to become before Midnight, and generally the things that you get, like all the little features. So none of this is really that hard to believe. So far they presented multiple mounts, pets you're going to get with the additions, beta access for Midnight, which seems guaranteed, and a housing bundle to jumpstart your estate once the feature is added to the game. The only kind of shocking thing we got are the decors for the housing, where one of them shows Alleria as the Ranger General. This is actually the biggest shocker of all, because it might indicate that the Blood Elves are either leaving the Horde, becoming neutral, or Alleria is joining the Horde. See, at the moment, Blood Elves are a Horde race. Alleria is an Alliance character, but the leaked decor shows her as a Ranger General. Now, some people here are saying this might be a look into the past because she was a Ranger General back in the day, but that is not the case because she was never a Ranger General. She was supposed to become a Ranger General, but really, she was a Ranger Captain. So this new image showing her as a Ranger General, which is one of the biggest positions within Qualta Lass, strongly hints that she is one right now, and as an Alliance character, leading one of the Horde races. This ties in with the Elven reunion they talked about for Midnight, so it makes sense that the Blood Elves might become like a neutral race akin to the Pandaren. So based on this very mid-league season, this is pretty much the most legit information we had gotten so far, combined with some potential Northrend zone and playable Amani, but It's more like 50-50 to be completely honest. However, we have gotten some interesting things in the community which do seem like complete BS, but there could be some grain of truth. There is something oddly suspicious about it. So the first one is the biggest rage bait I think we ever gotten, and that is the return of our beloved guy Zowal. Someone showed an image of Blizzard Entertainment Presents, like the start of a cinematic with Zowal laying around, like sitting completely broken in the dark room with this giant hole in his chest, which actually happened. He is deactivated, and then Xal'atath appears in the background like she's going to put the dark heart or something in his chest to actually restart him. Now this plays a little bit into the legit thing because he did end on a cliffhanger. He really does have a hole in his chest. He is deactivated, so just laying around, and Xal'atath is wielding an artifact called the Dark Heart, which could technically fit into a chest hole. Furthermore, oddly suspicious enough, a few days back we data mined a new mount coming exclusively to China, which is actually a recolor of the mount that you would get from the Jailer Mythic, and there is some text about the first ones, like this is 100% confirmed information. However, the reason I think this is so unlikely is I don't think Blizzard is dumb enough to bring this guy back. Like, the whole premise of this leak really seems like rage bait. Blizzard acknowledged multiple times that he was a terrible villain. They attempted to distance themselves from this guy as much as possible, and I really don't think Xal'atath and the entire Dark Heart being used just to revive this guy, like the entire storyline being all this just to revive Zowal and make him a main character again, is really a good move. Blizzard has made a ton of mistakes, but I think they're self-aware enough to not do something like this. Furthermore, the leak is really well done. It does appear like a cinematic, but let's be real, as I said earlier, with AI it is possible, like totally possible, to make fake things like this. It's not even questionable. I mean, you just get the Jailer model, a few prompts, and you can do something like this. So while there is an odd chance that this could be real, I'm like 99% certain that this is rage bait and not something worth talking about. On the other hand, we have a leak that is not actually a midnight leak, but instead the Last Titan leak, which could make sense because based on the timeline that we know about Blizzard, the Last Titan by this point is probably deep in development. Now, the map itself actually does seem like rage bait as well. The only difference is that someone actually went through a lot of effort on this, and it doesn't really seem like AI. The main argument for this map is the fact that it seems to be drawn on a whiteboard, and the writing on the board looks exactly like Chris Metzen's writing. If the leak is fake, someone went through the effort to find things that Chris Metzen signed or had written, and he decided to copy his handwriting exactly, which is actually quite a bit more effort than AI, but the map itself is actually really weird when you look at it. I've talked about this multiple times by this point, but with Xal'atath being enlarged and potentially with 1 or 2 new zones coming in this expansion, it is almost certain that Northrend is getting the same treatment, especially with the recent info on some new zones, especially under Northrend. So the map of Northrend in the Last Titan is going to look quite a bit different, like that is 100% expected, and it certainly won't be the same thing we saw back in Wrath with just updated models. However, this map looks drastically different. I mean, first is it's literally missing a few zones like Grizzly Hills and Howling Fjord, potentially even the entirety of Zuldrak. Borean Tundra also doesn't seem to be a thing, so we're missing like nearly half of the continent. It does appear that the Nexus is still there, just drifted away, and Vordrasil, the World Tree, is apparently still there with some small islands around it. This butchered Northrend doesn't seem like something that would get people crazy excited, especially since Howling Fjord and Grizzly Hills are one of the most popular zones within the community, but it could actually make sense realistically. I mean, we are told that we're coming to Northrend not really as an expedition to fight the Lich King, but this is like a cataclysm, like a worldwide catastrophe event that we're in the middle of, and the Titans themselves are going to like crash into this place. So their arrival could potentially blow up half the continent to make it quite a bit different. It appears that with the green lines that the Icecrown is the main area, and this is something I talked about before because there is Azerite, there is something definitely related to the World Soul under there are those drills that the Jailer used, so this is legit, like this actually feature of Icecrown and being the main zone. Furthermore, the text also kind of makes sense. I mean, it appears the dragons are coming to the Negablight from the Dragon Isles. Traegar and the so-called Awakened are in Ulduar, which makes sense because we know the Earthen are there. Something is definitely going to be happening with all these Titanforge minions, so there could be some legitimacy to this. They might actually expand Icecrown and Stormpeaks with some underground zones in between, and the isles around Vordrasil could be what remains of those zones from the impact. So compared to the Jailer one, this one is actually very intriguing. I mean, it is worth talking about. It is definitely sort of a Ragebait, but not completely. It is also possible that this is an unfinished map, so it might look something like this. Some zones might get removed, some added, so this could be early stage stuff. However, usually, the trend is that Blizzard is trying to appease and cater to the nostalgia, and I think something drastic like removing half of Northrend that people love, especially zones like Grizzly Hills, would be quite an unpopular decision. So overall, just based on this map, I don't think it is as fake as the Jailer one, which is almost certainly AI, and there is potential that this could be some pre-planning stage, early stage map of The Last Titan, but honestly, nothing really confirms it other than the handwriting being exactly the one as Chris Metzen would use. So overall, not a crazy league season so far for Midnight, but we do have some legit interesting information. Thank you for watching. Check out what is Xal'atath's actual end goal by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on the Roman Empire that I've recorded live on site in Malta by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.